All right, Rob, you didn't get to weigh in here, but Bubba Wallace, you obviously know what was going on, and NASCAR released a picture today.
I saw it
of the noose. It was a noose. What's your take on the whole thing?
I just think that, there were already people who were ready to push back and, oh, my God, like it's the worst thing in the world that they supported him and it was something to open up the door or whatever they tried to paint it as. I saw the picture. That looked like a noose to me, Chris.
It was definitely a noose, yeah.
I mean, and I think when you only have one black driver and considering what went on with the banning of the Confederate flag, I think that it is worth sounding the alarm and letting people know that it's not going to be tolerated or allowed to happen. I'm sorry.
No,
I don't think that they misstepped, and everybody was like so quick to push back. What is that guy's name? The actor Jesse
Smollett.
Yeah, they
calling
were
him
right
Jesse
away.
Smollett, yeah.
This is just no, it's not. No, it's not because it's not fake. There's the picture.
Right.
Now what?
Jesse Smollett concocted
a story and paid people.
Paid guys. Come on, it's just completely.
It's not even. But that's always
Bubba
the pushback.
Wallace was these were people that were waiting to rip Bubba Wallace. And here's the thing: he was getting death threats. Someone flew over the track with a Confederate flag. There were fans outside of the track driving by with Confederate flags. It had to be a tense atmosphere. And then you see a noose, and it was a noose. Now, the only thing is it was there since October. And no one, put it there as a prank or a threat to Bubba Wallace. Thankfully. Like, honestly, I'm glad it wasn't, somebody putting it in there to scare him or to send a message. We should be thankful that was the case. And I think, Rob, with NASCAR, it showed that they really are trying to make a difference, to change. Richard Petty had not been at a race throughout the entire pandemic. I believe he's 80, Rob G, is he 82 years old? And he came out to go walk up the track with Bubba Wallace.
Right.
I think it just shows, admirable. Okay, yeah, was it an overreaction? In hindsight, I guess it was. But when you look at what was going on, it was reasonable to think that if they and Bubba Wallace said, he told the dude, are you sure? Are you the team member who found the news? Are you sure? And the guy looked at all the other garages and none of them had a noose. So it wasn't like they immediately went out there and started crying wolf. They did their due diligence and so I don't feel
where we are now in the country, Chris, right, and the climate. I don't think that you should take anything lightly. I really don't.
Totally agree.
And and bringing in the FBI or whatever, that's what they do. That's what they're here for. Somebody's civil rights are violated, Chris, right?
Yep.
And you can find out. That's what the FBI's here. I don't understand the big, like, as if they showed me a picture and it was a string hanging down and it had a hole in it or something,
right,
it looked like
right.
Then I would be like, okay, maybe this is like overdoing it.
Right.
That picture I saw, that looked like a noose to me. I don't know what else.
It's a noose. And the FBI admitted it's a noose. Now, again, thankfully, it wasn't put up there as a threat, but it's a noose.
No doubt.
There's no ifs, ands, and I agree with you. Like, when I first heard it, I was thinking, okay, I was picturing some small, hole in the rope or something,
right.
But no, that was a legitimate noose. And so, we'll ask Willy T. Ribbs what he thinks. Great to have him on. Willie, welcome to the Odd Couple. Willy T. Ribbs, great to have you on.
What's going on, players?
Man, we're good.
Man, it's great to have you on, Willie. We watched you from afar, and I can't wait to hear your perspective on everything that's going on in the world of NASCAR. You raced IndyCar, NASCAR. You did just about everything there was to do in auto racing. So from your great perspective, what did you think about this whole situation with Bubba Wallace and the way NASCAR handled it and all of that?
The truth will set us all free. That was my first thought. It was too easy to happen, and I'm not saying it didn't, but we got to clear the smell, and the more we know, and time will tell.
So you think it may have? Are you saying you question what the FBI was saying, and you think it really may have been a threat to Bubba?
I don't know. Like I said, the truth will set us all free, and eventually, how does a rope hang for months and no one, just everybody walks by it?
Right.
Right. They said it was there since October. Yeah.
That is.
That's just a normal garage rope, right? It just didn't make sense, and somebody's going to squeal like a pig with a gate on his head.
Willie, what do you make of and NASCAR banning the Confederate flag, which is very bold and admirable when you consider that they're going against their fan base. This is not an easy layup where most people agree with it. These are the people who still love that flag and fly that flag. What do you make of NASCAR making such a move?
Well, first of all, the flag represents, number one, treason. Number two, the support of slavery, right? And the ownership of slaves, to fight for that. That's what that flag means. And, last but not least, it's a losing flag. You lost, right?
Right.
So, right. So now, they're pulling it, let's take it down. But my question is, if George Floyd was still alive, would that flag still be flying? That's my question.
That's a good question.
And NASCAR, they're brilliant PR strategists. they Goodell better go down and take some lessons, because they are master spin artists. And there's nothing wrong with that. Politicians do the same thing. But, and Bubba Wallace to demand, Bubba's not Richard Petty. Now, if Richard said, okay, boys, we got to fold that thing up, and put it away, okay, I could understand. But Bubba asking NASCAR, well, we should ban the flag inside the racetracks. NASCAR doesn't take advice from drivers. They don't take recommendations from team owners. NASCAR does what NASCAR wants. So, is Bubba, not related to George, a sacrificial lamb?
Hey, Willie, let me ask you this, and my memory could be off, and maybe if you remember this. Chris, you remember Furman Bisher, the longtime columnist of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution?
Yep.
Willie, I think he wrote this about you. Tell me if I'm wrong or not. I believe he wrote a lead to his column about Willy T. Ribs, and if you could believe this, Chris, this made the paper in Atlanta. The lead to his column was, when I was a kid, the only car that black guys drove was a cab. That was like the lead to a column about you. Do you remember that, Willie?
I've done a couple of stories with Furman Bisher, and especially when I qualified for the Indy 500 in 1991. I don't remember that, but if that's the truth, it's not called the truth.
Right.
It's Furman Bisher.
That was Chris. That was his lead. I remember someone sending it to me and showing me the lead, and I believe it was on Willy T. Ribs. And I'm gonna try to find that story, but I just was wondering if you remembered it.
Willie, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I've been asked all day, how do you feel about the news, and how would you have responded? I wouldn't have said a damn word. I would have waited for the cat who hung it to show up. Forget it. That's how I handled everything. I wouldn't have said anything. And and here we are now. And in those days, I got death threats all the time, right? And we didn't have cell phones or internet then, but I got them in letters and I got them in phone calls. And believe it, I mean, I thought it was sort of funny to read because most of the letters they couldn't spell.
I've gotten those letters over the years as a newspaper columnist. Trust me.
Yeah, they couldn't spell, but they could spell the N word. That's the only word.
That's one word they could spell.
Yeah.
They
spelled cat CTA.
How did the other drivers treat you in NASCAR? Because you've been critical of your time in NASCAR. You talked about it, and you just mentioned the death threats. But how did the drivers treat you? And I know you've compared NASCAR to IndyCar and how IndyCar was much better. Talk about how the drivers in NASCAR treated you, and then why IndyCar was a much better experience for you.
There was a few drivers in NASCAR, and Bobby Allison was one of the best. Bobby Allison, Harry Gant, Michael Waltrip, they were just good people. But I hated Tim Richmond. I hated him. And there were some others in there that they made it clear, we have nothing to say to you. Really, we really don't want you here. And that was the vibe. And it didn't affect me emotionally at all, because I was looking for a fight anyway. You want to take it to the next step. We can do it, and they knew it. So I never got the N word ever in racing to my face from another driver. In all the years, no driver has come to my face and called me the N word. But same token, they might have been some dumb, but they weren't plumb dumb because they knew they knew what the outcome was going to be.
Right.
IndyCar was a different level. IndyCar, I had a great experience. I didn't get corporate America did not support me in IndyCar the way they supported other drivers, but there was Bobby Unser, Al Unser Jr. We are very close to this day, and just good human beings, and they knew what was being said, and there was some that sort of shielded me.
Now, Willie, some people, including some African American drivers, or people in racing, felt like they were critical of you because you were outspoken. Was that do you feel like that was they wanted you as an African American to just kind of quote unquote stay in your place and be happy to be there, and they didn't like you being that outspoken, or what do you think it was?
The movie Uppity, which is on Netflix right now about my career, there was I was uppity to, a lot of the black drivers might have thought I was uppity, and they weren't, and they didn't have the girts, and you know what girts are, right?
Right.
Yeah, they didn't have the girts to be Willy T, or maybe they felt, well, if I just grin and be humble and bow down, they'll let me race. No, that's the oldest trick in the book. Don't you stay humble and quiet and subservient, and they're going to brush you right under the carpet. I knew that. Muhammad Ali taught me that, and Ali was my biggest mentor as a sports figure. He told me, he said, you must stand tall and you must not bow down. And I wasn't any different than AJ Foyt was.
Right.
No different. Just a different skin color. So I wasn't going to be judged differently just because I was African American, and I demanded that respect.
Willie, great stuff, man. We really,
you.
we appreciate the time. And
I didn't get to call you Willie Barbecue Ribs, but that's all right. We still enjoyed it.
Oh, it's going to taste good.
All right, it's Willie T. Ribs, legendary driver. We thank you, man. Thanks a lot.